Hello, my name's Simon Crafar. We're in Le Mans, in the MotoE paddock, in the garage of PONS Racing, with the machines of Jordi Torres and Jasper Avime. Because today's Tech Talk is about MotoE, everything about MotoE in fact. Let's start with the machines. Here's one we made earlier. We undressed her so we can see her private parts. Check this out. First of all, this massive area here is the battery. The easiest way to describe the battery, I'm told, is lithium ion batteries like you have in your watch, little silver fellas, all stacked up on top of each other, okay? Creating 400 volts. They go out on these orange cables up to this here, which is an inverter. And the reason it's changing that 400 volts in DC into AC, three-phase AC, because AC electric engines are more efficient and more powerful. And so when I say more efficient, to give you an idea, from battery through inverter, through engine to rear wheel, they only lose, believe it or not, around 15%. Most of that to heat of the inverter, which is why the inverter is liquid cooled, you know, runs liquid through here, electric pump through a radiator to try and minimize that loss. I mean, to put it in perspective, a gasoline engine, petrol engine, for example, is around, I'm told, 25% efficiency, meaning 25 to 30 from gasoline, you know, in your engine through to rear wheel. 25, they're losing what, 75%, mostly through, again, to heat off the engine radiator, out the exhaust. So you can kind of see why these things are the future. So, you know, future of transportation and that especially. So let's speak about, because we said efficiency, but also power. This is around 110 kilowatts, I'm told, which is, I googled that, 147 horsepower, which is better than a 600cc sports bike. Torque-wise, they're saying double the amount of a 600cc sports bike, you know, and it produces that from 0 RPM, that maximum torque, up to 5,000 RPM, which is why you don't see a clutch or a gearbox, because from 0 RPM, I mean, to give you an idea, we have a clutch on a gasoline bike, you think about it, because if the thing's not spinning, no RPM, 0, it's not running, it's not ready to go, where this is from 0. Then we pull the clutch in on the line, put her in gear, keep that engine, get it to the maximum torque, which a lot of bikes, race bikes, around 10,000 RPM. If it revs to 14, yeah, 910 would be maximum torque. Then try to start with that maximum torque. These have maximum torque from 0, so you don't need a clutch. It's stopped, but you go bang, maximum torque, go, which is why they're very fast accelerating off the line from 0. Then, that, like I said, that torque goes to around maximum, around 5,000 RPM, drops off, but the horsepower, well, kilowatts, you know, goes all the way to around 10,000 RPM. From 0 to 10,000 RPM means they don't need a gearbox either, because they can go from 0 to these things with a long enough straight, 270 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, really impressive. Right, so we talked about efficiency, horsepower. Next thing I think would be the vehicle control unit, which is tucked in under here, VCU. And I mean, the main part I suppose we should talk about is throttle and engine brake. So how do they create engine brake on an electric bike? Because they don't have naturally engine brake in these electric engines, because there's not much friction, and believe it or not, they can do like 1,000,000 kilometers with no service, because there's no parts touching in there, you know, so no servicing, no maintenance, just ride the thing, you know, 1,000,000 kilometers. So engine brake is created by the vehicle control unit telling the engine to charge. So using the turning of the rear wheel when you close that throttle, then by choosing a button whether you want more or less and confirming it. So these buttons here, you can get more engine brake, meaning more charge. Demand the engine charges more, which means more engine brake, you know, that's pit lane limiter. But this one here is extra charge, meaning extra engine brake if you need it out on track all of a sudden, like a rear brake even. So when it's on 0 throttle, it has the engine brake you've set, you know, preset. And you can adjust the throttle, say there's 5 centimeters movement, you can have engine brake full or less to constant throttle, just like a petrol bike, and then the rest is obviously acceleration, more power. But you can move that place where the constant throttle is, make the engine brake area bigger so you can adjust the engine brake, or smaller. Obviously the more you make engine brake area, the less throttle area, you know, quicker response you have. So that's rider preference, they adjust that. Right, next thing I've got to tell you is about charging the machine. So when I first saw MotoE turn up to the paddock, sad, but they had to use diesel generators originally because the circuits couldn't supply enough power. They weren't geared up for 18 bikes drawing around 15 kilowatts each. You can imagine, they're not, so they had to have diesel generators, which doesn't fit the ethos of this class. But progressed on, now they have a massive power bank per team, per rider. And this power bank, think of it as a big battery. It's called a juice roll, I've seen written on the machine there. And what it does, instead of drawing 15 kilowatts the bike directly from the grid, they draw around 3 kilowatts each battery, you know, this massive, think of it as a gas station per machine, and it trickles that power in all day, all night. So, and it's got enough power in this, you know, juice roll to charge these machines, like one machine 3 times. So basically they're taking it easy on the grid and have the power ready there for the teams. One other thing is they connect up this to the big battery, the gas station over there, and it again trickle charges up, and this is enough. Basically they move, it's not exactly small, but they move this instead of like tire warmers. They run tire warmers off here for the machines, and they, during practice and qualifying, the riders can head out, do 4 or 5 laps, come in, and while they're talking to the mechanics or chief mechanics charge this, plug it in, and every 7 minutes they can recoup another lap worth of electricity back into the battery. That obviously causes heat, you know, whenever you charge it, but because of the heat, see the air coming in here, they get leaf blowers, just like the gasoline, the MotoGP bikes, and they blow air in here to cool the battery. If the temperature at the racetrack is too high, the mechanics showed me they've got like an esky, or cooler, or whatever they're called in your country, and you know, where normally you put your beers in, they put dry ice in there. They have a special guy that delivers and packs it. Then the leaf blower sucks air from the dry ice through the battery to keep the battery temperature down. So what else about charging? So 7 minutes they can replace a lap, and that's why also they do it at the start of the race. So they head out, they don't do a sighting lap, they do a warm-up lap. They're sitting on the grid for between 8 and 10 minutes, and they're plugged in then. So they've replaced that warm-up lap, and they have full power. If anything happens, the vehicle control unit, the bike tells race control. Race control know if the bikes are fully charged or not, so they can take safety precautions. They know that bike's not going to finish the race, whatever that is, black flag them, I don't know, but it hasn't happened yet, but at least they know. One other thing is, there's a big green light on the side of here. It's not lit up at the moment, you can't see any colour, but that little LED lights up green as soon as you've turned the bike on. If they have a massive crash, it's never happened yet, but if the battery is damaged in a crash and they know it's shorted, they don't want marshals dealing with 400 volts. So if it's got any damage or any fault of any way, that lights up red, so the marshals know not to touch it. But also, that signal goes to race control. So race control, if a bike's crashed, they look and go, it's green, no problem, normal marshals can get it. If it's red, they send out a special recovery team that's kitted up to deal with, you know, rubber gloves and to deal with the high voltage and, you know, crane it, take it away. Obviously that has to happen quick. So we've done that. Now, last thing I should mention is rider impression, you know. I got the opportunity to ride one of these. Let's have a look at the finished one. I got the opportunity to ride one of these end of 2019, once they were, you know, had spent a year developing, and with the Öhlins suspension on it, Brembo brakes, high level stuff, and especially for me was like MotoGP level. These are not them, that's just for wheeling around, but MotoGP level Michelin slick tyres. The experience was fantastic, and I'm not having you on here. So much so, but the bike with that grip and stuff, it turned really well. It was at Valencia. I didn't want to get off it, but I had to, because we had to charge it. See you in Mugello for the next TikTok.